Welcome to the fourth video. Understanding how eating patterns and lifestyle can affect how your body works helps you find ways to work with rather than against your body. Changing your lifestyle, eating pattern, or stress level could help you control your eating behaviors and your weight more successfully. So let's move on and put this all together on a more personal level. If I were to ask you right now what your favorite comfort food is, could you answer me pretty quickly? Are you nodding your head? If I were to ask you, when are you most likely to crave that food? Do you know the answer? I want you to start thinking about what you crave, when, and why. When your cravings hit or when you find yourself eating more than you intended, how strong is that urge? Many people describe it as very strong, sometimes frighteningly so, and use terms like uncontrollable or out of control. For instance, people will say, I have no control over chocolate, or if I eat a box of those, I crush the whole package. Some people might also refer to themselves as addicted to certain foods. Starting next week, we're going to talk about what to do when those urges hit. But for now, we're just going to focus on where our cravings are coming from and how they work. So let's do a little exercise. Sit back in your chair and make yourself comfortable. Place your feet flat on the floor, relax your arms and your hands, and close your eyes. And just focus on your breathing. Feel the air coming in through your nose and filling your belly, and then slowly release the air back out through your mouth as if you were gently blowing on the flame of a candle. Continue to breathe slowly and focus on the air entering and leaving your body. Let yourself feel like you're melting into the chair. Let all of your thoughts float up out the top of your head and out into the room, and just sit quietly and continue to breathe slowly and deeply in and out. Now I'm going to name some foods. Focus on your thoughts and notice the first word you think of when I say the following: pumpkin pie, broccoli, bran cereal, raw oysters, potato salad, hot fudge sundae, popcorn, shiokara, pepperoni pizza. Take one more deep breath and then become more aware of the room. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, open your eyes. How did that go for you? Did you associate any of those words with a specific situation, like having a picnic or going to a movie, celebrating a holiday, maybe a particular season? You may have also heard thoughts like, oh, that's healthy, or unhealthy, good, bad, yum, delicious, ooh, or what's that? The reason I threw in the dish shiokara, which is a real Japanese dish, by the way, look it up. The reason why I put that word in is because most of you probably don't know what it is. So you didn't have any word or feeling or thoughts associated with it yet. That exercise made you more aware that you've a learned association with certain foods other than just simple nourishment. We each have our own individual relationship with food that we've learned. In fact, it's only breastfed infants fed on demand that have a truly spontaneous relationship with food. Most of us have been brought up with certain routines and traditions and expectations around food, and these become learned behaviors or habits. Some of this learning can be a bigger problem later in life, and that's what we're going to be discussing in the upcoming videos. So how does this happen? When one event is repeatedly linked to another, you learn to associate these two events. And that's what we talked about in today's email with Pavlov's dogs. On page 9 in your workbook, you'll find this worksheet for your learned eating behaviors. We're going to use the word trigger to mean the stimulus, such as the footsteps of the lab tech or getting in the car. The learned response is the new behavior or emotion that results from that repeated pairing. So watching a movie can make us crave popcorn. We associate turkey with Thanksgiving dinner. When a child accomplishes something good, like a goal in a soccer game or a good mark, It's repeatedly paired with a treat, such as candy or ice cream, and so now we crave a treat when we're celebrating. When we were upset as a child, it's often paired with some kind of treat also. So now we also crave a treat for comfort. Generally, the strength of the learned response depends on how consistent we were to pair those things repeatedly. The more often the pairing occurs, the stronger the relationship. So, for example, let's say that you grew up having dessert after dinner every night of the week. As an adult, maybe you've developed a prediabetes or diabetes requiring you to limit your sweets. It will be much harder for you to stop eating dessert than for someone who only grew up eating dessert on Sundays or special occasions. Trying to change a learned response can also be more difficult if you experience strong emotions around the trigger or the learned response. So for instance, if you were denied dessert if you misbehaved or didn't eat your vegetables, this can add complexity to your learned relationship with dessert. How many of you grew up being scolded if you did not finish all the food on your plate? Many of us, including me, were reminded of the starving children in some other part of the world. So eat up, finish everything. If our parents grew up during the war or the Depression, where there was a shortage of food, then wasting food was absolutely not allowed, and it was a very emotional issue around the dinner table. As pointed out a few days ago, our portions have become much larger than what most of us need. Yet we don't want to leave food on our plates. We've learned that this is wasteful and very unacceptable. Once you understand how this learning works, you can also figure out how to unlearn these relationships. So let's go back to the dog example. If Pavlov wanted his dogs to stop drooling when they heard someone walking down the hall, the best way would be to have somebody walk into the room multiple times without bringing food. This eventually breaks that association with the footsteps and the delivery of dinner, and the dogs will no longer respond by drooling. In other words, if you want a trigger to no longer lead to the learned response, you must break the link between the two. So for instance, what other ways a child can be comforted? They could be given a hug or read a story. If they were less frequently comforted with food, the child would eventually stop associating food with being upset. So as an adult, what are some other ways that we could comfort ourselves? We can also try and break the dessert trigger by having a herbal sweet tea after dinner. And so eventually you'll stop associating dinner with that cake or pastry or cookie. Over the next few days, spend some time on the trigger worksheets on pages 8, 9, and 10, and then write down your associations between activities and the emotions of food. Awareness is the key to making these changes. So starting off by just knowing what we're working on will make all the difference. Next time, we're going to talk about the 3 different kinds of hunger. Can you guess what all 3 of them are?